Welcome to Dodgers Daily. Casey Porter here. So glad that you decided to tune in. Fans, today we have a very, very, very special guest. Of course, he made his Major League debut this year, and he went to Oklahoma State, and the Dodgers won a World Series this year. So, hey, man, couldn't be a more special guest for Dodgers Daily. Justin Wrobleski. Robo, how the hell are you, man?
I'm great, Casey. I'm glad to talk to you again.
Yeah, man. Never knew you actually wore glasses, right? I guess you wear contacts on the mound?
Oh, yeah, always.
Yeah. So tell us about your Major League debut. Got to know all about it. Got to know about the process, just where you were at when you found out, the whole process of getting to L.A. and then warming up, taking the mound after you're over all of it.
Yeah. I guess so. So backing up to when I first kind of had an idea, I mean, after they called me up from Double-A, it was just kind of like, okay, it seems like pieces are moving. I mean, we had a couple injuries here and there, and so I was just trying to stay as ready as I could. We actually had a 2-week road trip in AAA. It was like Reno to, I think, Vegas.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was around July 4th. So we had Reno, Vegas, and there was like that weird travel day in between. But we get to Vegas, which is like our 3-3 like series, which you usually don't do in the minor leagues. Play 3 games, and then so each team can get like a July 4th game or whatever. And so we get there, and Travis, the manager, comes up to me when we're there, and I'm supposed to pitch that week. I don't remember when. But he was like, "Hey," he's like, "we're gonna put you on the dev list. There's a chance you could throw in LA on Saturday, but like you can't tell anybody. Like you got to keep it on the low." And so I didn't tell my family, didn't tell anybody. Like everyone on the team was like, "What's going on?" Like basically I just had to make up something like, yeah, they're trying to control my innings or blah, blah, blah. Like just to get the guys to stop asking like, what is wrong? And so ended up like just getting another call. I don't remember when it was. It might've been Thursday or Friday, and saying like, hey, cause we flew back to OKC and then get another call. I can't remember. I think it was from Gomes or whoever. And now Trav called me late that night. I think it was on Thursday. And I was like, hey, they're going to fly you to LA, but you still like, you might not throw still. And so I fly out there, and I'm excited, whatever. And then, end up watching the game on like Friday. Just like, I don't know if I'm going to throw still. I think the game was at like 4-3, and Paxton was throwing. He threw pretty well, and he was kind of cruising through 5, and then they took him out of the game, and I was like, oh wait, like I might pitch tomorrow. This is great. And so then Gomes ends up calling me and says like, hey, like you ready to throw in the big leagues tomorrow? And I'm like, hell yeah, like let's go. And so then obviously go back to the hotel, get sleep, whatever, wake up the next day, get a ride to the ballpark. And then like that first day there's a lot going on. Like signing things and like blah, 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 contracts, all this, all that you're signing to before you can go out there and play and whatever. And so do all that. I think I actually watched Kershaw throw live that day or something, like
nice.
Before the game that was happening. And of course it was a day game, because that's my forte this year, was just a bunch of day games in the big league, which is funny because like day games, for whatever reason, day games and me have not mixed well over the past couple of years. Yeah. And of course, like 4 of my first 5 big league starts are all day games, and I'm just like, all right, like let's go out there and battle. But
that's great if you throw well, not as good if you don't, right? Because you got all night to think about it.
No, day games are tough. Day games are tough. But then get to the stadium, and then I kind of just start my normal warm up stuff, and I don't know, like. To me, like once I like getting out there for warm-ups, like throwing was cool. Just kind of looking around the stadium. But then like once I kind of got going, it just felt normal, I guess, to me. Yeah. Like it just felt like this is where I'm supposed to be. Like I'm ready to be here. Like it wasn't like oh my gosh, like this is the big leagues. It was cool. Like that first run out there and just kind of like looking at the stadium, like this is really cool. But then after that, like it just felt like any other game. It just felt like I was playing baseball, which I guess is a good thing, because that's how you want it to feel. And it was great. I mean, I had a lot of fun. Fortunately, Yelich clipped me for that homer, and then the backside one to I think it was Hase, where it was just like I don't know how that ball gets out. I was like, I haven't seen a ball get out backside like that here ever. And so, of course, get clipped there. But I threw the ball well that day, and then kind of built steam throughout that month. And then, we traded for Flaherty, and obviously someone had to go, and that was me. And then the rest of the year was just kind of playing that up and down game, trying to learn, trying to continue to get better. But it was awesome. My debut experience, I had my family there, everybody was there, so it was really cool.
A lot to unpack there. Let's back up to the fact that, my gosh, you were so close to like being dominant in your first outing. And of course, me being the guy who covers the prospects and remembering all of your minor league outings, I immediately went back to like your first 3 outings in high A Great Lakes in 2023, right when you came off your Tommy John. And I remember thinking, all right, man, this dude's giving up some runs, but that's it right there. He's so close. And as long as he keeps pitching like that, he's going to dominate. Is there any correlation there, or am I just kind of reaching outside the box?
No, yeah, I think it's also just a product of anytime you go up levels or you go up and you make a change in league or a jump where people get better. There's kind of a learning period to it and figuring out like, how am I going to beat these guys? Like, and that's a fun part for me where it's like, okay, let's figure out how to beat these guys. And then usually like you give me enough chances and I figure it out, and then I just keep rolling. And all it really takes is consistent innings. But yeah, it felt that way. I was, obviously like anyone, it would be like getting sent down when I felt like I was building momentum. Yeah, right. That's hard for anybody. Not to say that I don't understand it, and it doesn't, and it did. Not to say it didn't make sense, because of course it did. But at the same time, as a competitor and a guy who wants to go out there and pitch every 5th game or whatever in the big leagues, it was just kind of frustrating. And then you go down and you try to figure it out. But it was awesome. And yeah, to your point, it definitely felt like I was really, really close.
You started last year at AA, and it went really fast for you. You only had 2 AAA outings, and then you get called up. So what was it like, just kind of that fast turnaround for you?
Yeah, it was awesome. Like, obviously you get a lot thrown at you, and there's a lot going on, but for me, it was just kind of going out there and trying to do the same thing that I did that got me there. And it's very hard to, I would say, it's hard to make that jump and not try to change everything at once and get better like right away, because that's just not the case for most guys, unfortunately. There's the rare few, but it's a tough jump, and it's a tough kind of learning on the fly type thing, especially for me, like not being in big league camp last year and everything else. So I didn't really know like staff or players or really anybody, and then just kind of get up there and you learn on the fly. I mean, it's a lot of fun. Like, I wouldn't trade it. It was awesome, and kind of getting that experience last year is, I think, gonna help me down the road and help me kind of continue in my growth as a player. So it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
What's the difference between like, AA? There's a lot of great talent there. AAA, obviously, there's a lot of major leaguers in that level of baseball. But what's the biggest difference that you saw between like a AA and the major league level?
I would say from a hitter perspective, and kind of how they approach the game, it's just kind of more refined. So like if they have a plan, they're going to stick to the plan, and you can kind of figure that plan out pretty early on. In the outings is kind of what I would notice is like, if a team's going to swing, they're going to swing a bunch, and like that's what they're going to do. Like, they're not going to kind of come off of that kind of philosophy, which is kind of like, that's what Houston does. Houston likes to swing. Or you get a team like, Milwaukee this year, who's more of a, like, just trying to be pests out there. Same with Cleveland, similar kind of approaches there. But I think you can just really tell, like, the guys are big league hitters. First off, like, they don't miss pitches when they're there. Yeah. Not as much as the guys in the minor leagues do. They don't guess as much, and when they do, like, if there's guys that guess, and if they guess and get it right, they're not going to miss the pitch. Like, right. That's just kind of how it goes. Whereas in the minor leagues, I think you can get away with like a guy guessing and you still kind of get it by him or outstuff him. Whereas in the big leagues, those guys the approach is different. They're obviously better at baseball. And it's just, that's kind of the big takeaway for me is like the plans and kind of just not missing when you miss.
Yeah. So did you have that one moment where you were standing there, whether in a bullpen during a game or after you threw a pitch or whatever, and you went, you know what? I just realized that I'm actually good enough to be here. Did you have that eureka moment?
Yeah, I think it was in that first outing. I think it was my first strikeout. I think Will was trying to call. Like he went like it was. I think I had thrown 2 heaters already, and he had gone like it was like slider. I was like no, cutter, no, curveball, no, and then he put down fastball, and I blew it by Adames, and that was like my first big league strike. I was like, all right, like that. Yeah. That was just like it has been. So like there's no difference. But no, that was kind of probably where it was for me. But I think too like the first time getting out there, and me not feeling like I didn't belong. Like I felt like I belonged the whole time. I never was like worried that I didn't belong. So I think that's kind of when I realized like, okay, like you've put in the work, like you've prepared to be here. So like you deserve this. So just go out there and have fun. I think that's kind of what it was for me.
Did you have a decompressive moment whenever you first came out after your first outing? Like, damn, I just made my major league debut. Did you have that decompression moment?
No,
or was it
I was pissed. I was pissed, man.
Typical Robo. He's pissed. That's so great.
I gave up 4 runs. I was like, man, like that's not how I wanted that to go. But you know, I think kind of viewing it, you know, in the days to come, like sure I threw the ball well and whatever. It's kind of the same thing as just looking back at my season as a whole, like it's great. It's awesome. Like I'm super thankful to pitch in the big leagues and get that opportunity. But at the same time, like I know that I'm better than how I pitched up there. And so it's kind of that bittersweet and that like fighting with myself being like a guy that is super competitive and wants to win and wants to pitch well and wants to help the team. And I know, like, I helped the team in certain ways this year, obviously filling innings when they needed them, whatever. But, like, to me, like, I'm a guy that, like, I want to go out there. I want to dominate. Like, I want to help the team win. I want to be a reason the team is winning, not a reason, like, not just a filler. So I guess it's to answer the whole question, like, did I decompress? Like, sure. But at the same time, like, I think it's just fuel to the fire and kind of, like, knowing what I can do and what I'm capable of and comparing that with kind of how I threw the ball last year is a little frustrating, I guess, for me.
That's the most Robo answer of all Robo answers in the history of time, and that leads me perfectly into my next question. So let's make this 2-part between your mentality and then also just your physical stuff, your pitches that you throw. What parts of each one of those did you feel like after you got the experience were actually the most Major League ready?
Yeah. I think the most Major League ready was my heater for sure. And then, you know, it's tough because when you go up, like they don't, like the catchers don't really know you, the pitching coaches don't really know you. So it's like that battle of like you trying to learn them trying to learn you, like you're trying to do everything you can to kind of feel comfortable and listen to them because obviously they know, like they've been here. And then that,
but they don't necessarily know you, like
exactly.
You know you,
right? And there's that balance between like being you and who you are, and then kind of listening to what they. And I'm sure it's been said 1,000 times, but that's just how it goes, and it's not like anything new. Like this has been going on forever. Like that's just how it is. So I'd say like my fastball was big league ready, and then I kind of got into. I was getting into a groove, like feeling good with all my stuff, like started to use the curveball again, which I hadn't used since I pitched in AA, like early in the season, hadn't been using it. And then we get to the big leagues and Mark's like, hey, like, I think we should use the curveball a little bit. I was like, sure, why not? And so used it a bunch in Houston. And I was like, damn, like that was a really good outing. Like I threw the ball really well today. Yeah. Like I'm excited to build off that. I get to go throw in Oakland next week. Like this is going to be like, I'm going to get on a roll here. And then obviously we get Flaherty. But at the same time, it's just like my stuff felt ready, and then I think getting sent up and sent down, like me personally, I think I kind of just lost who I was a little bit, and just didn't quite maintain like the same level. Like it's just trying to learn. Like that's just kind of how it is when you're getting sent up and sent down AAA big leagues, AAA big leagues, and so I thought my fastball was ready, and then lost a little bit of command there towards the latter half of the year. I think part of it was probably like that was the most things I'd thrown in a year, and there's a bunch of kind of factors against it where it's like, okay, like give yourself a little bit of leeway. Like again, like we were still working on off-speed stuff, kind of even into me getting into the big leagues, just trying to figure out what profile plays the best, what works the best. And finally towards the end of last year kind of settled. And that was kind of my arsenal that I threw out against like Cleveland. And then when I pitched in Colorado, like that's kind of where I think the arsenal is trending. And I think that's where I'm happy with it going. And that's kind of what we've talked about leading into this offseason is just, like, probably not going to throw the sweeper as much. Still going to have it, but probably won't throw it very much. Even though metrically it's a great pitch, I think there's a lot to what guys see and how guys see the ball in the big leagues that's different. So throwing that harder slider, more of a kind of similar to what Kershaw throws. From my slot, I've got to create a little more depth on it than he does just because in order to create the kind of same effect. So yeah, it tags it as a cutter on StatCast because they don't know my arsenal yet. But the pitch that gets tagged as a cutter for the last 3 or 4 outings of last year in the big leagues, and I think a couple in the minor leagues, that's my new slider. So it's like a more of a gyro-y, like hard down slider.
Kind of a bullet.
Yeah, kind of a bullet. It's not going to sweep as much. Just kind of keep it over the plate as long as I can kind of deal. And then obviously just continuing to work on the curveball and then getting it back to where it should be, which has been great. And then obviously continue with the four seam, and then eventually down the road when I've kind of mastered those three, like we'll probably bring the cutter back, and then we'll probably get something that goes to my left more. But for right now, it's going to be mainly focusing on that fastball, the slider, and the curveball, just until I can feel confident that those are all three like above average pitches that I can throw in the zone, throw out of the zone, like then we're in good shape.
Yeah. So I got to ask you, I know how competitive you are, and I know, hey, the bigger the environment, the more competitive the moment, the more that you like it. So I kind of get a laugh out of, not really a laugh because you're back down in AAA, but here you are in this charged up environment in the major leagues in LA. There's 50 some odd thousand people. You come back to Oklahoma City or Sugar Land or wherever, and it's Tuesday night, and they say there's 3,000 people there, but there's not, right? And you can hear the beer vendor in the first row very well. So for somebody like Justin Wrobleski that loves the adrenaline of the big moment, how hard is that coming back down and trying to pitch in that environment?
Yeah, it's tough. It's just a weird experience. And then even talking about this, like talking to like Ben about this and some of the other guys and Knack and kind of some of these guys that have dealt with this, and Bobby and all those guys, it's a different experience. And it's I don't know, for me, like I love to pitch and like I love going out there. So like the feelings are still similar. It's never the same. Like pitching in the minor leagues is never going to feel the same anymore now that I've thrown the big leagues in front of that many people and whatever, and the stage is so big. But like at the end of the day, like you just have to kind of convince yourself like, okay, like this matters too. Like it's, even though we're not in the big leagues anymore, like I think you have to find a way with every outing down there to really just kind of make it important, because it is, and really just go out there and pitch as if it were a big league game, because I think that's something that I probably didn't do the best job of when I first got sent back down, because it was just like it's hard to explain, but it's just there's a huge difference in pitching in El Paso versus pitching in Dodger Stadium. So it's cool. It's just kind of something you got to learn on the fly, and it's a cool thing. It's tough, but at the end of the day, like you just got to treat it like every other game.
Yeah, and another thing about you is, like, you're very rigid, like with your systems and with your routines and your diet and just your daily everything that you do. And so just the up down and not knowing where your feet are going to be at or what your role is going to be, that had to be very tough for a guy like you that's very routine oriented.
Yeah, extremely. I think that was the one thing where, looking back, it's like, man, there is things now that I'm going to try to kind of have in place going into next year so that I don't feel the way that I felt going up and down, where like it feels like I'm missing out on a little bit of work here or there, like whether it's like being able to throw at a certain time or whatever. It's tough. but again, like it's a learning experience, and it's like now that I know like kind of what it's like, I'll be more prepared for it if it happens next year, and kind of moving on in the future, like understanding that the routine is important, but just making sure like here's the big pieces that I need to do before this next outing, and if I check those off, we're good, and if I don't get to some of the other little stuff, like that's okay, and like finding ways to stay sharp, even though there's a lot of like, well, you might pitch today. Oh, you're supposed to pitch today. You're not pitching today anymore. Or you're supposed to pitch on Saturday. We're going to move you to Sunday. And then you're supposed to pitch on Sunday. We're actually going to move you to Tuesday. It's like, we're going to fly you to Atlanta. You're not going to throw. Like, you go back to Salt Lake. We're going to throw you 10 pitches on Tuesday. It's like there's just a lot of things where it's like, it's out of your control. So like at the end of the day, like you just got to go out there and find a way to pitch when you're called upon. And that's just kind of how it is. So, but yeah, it's cool. Like I learned a lot from it. I kind of have a better understanding of how it works and kind of how to prepare myself if it happens again. So
it's always easier to do something a second time,
for sure,
no matter what it is.
Sure.
So kind of I've been wanting to ask you this question too, because just knowing you, nobody knows Justin Wrobleski and what makes him tick mentally, and then also maybe that day as far as how you're pitching better than you do yourself. And so you like to learn your own lessons. You like to do things, experience them, and then evaluate yourself. Okay, what worked, what didn't, and then create the better version of Justin Wrobleski yourself, right? So with that, and then also the mentorship, I'm sure the mentorship was big for you, but how did that dynamic play for you?
It's good. Like there's a lot of guys that'll help you out, especially if you ask. But I think the biggest thing for me is not so much like talking to guys. It's just kind of watching how certain guys work, watching what certain guys do, watching the game, kind of just talking to the pitching coaches and getting everything like, hey, what are your thoughts on this? Hey, what are your thoughts on that? Like that's more so what helps me out. It's kind of tough, especially like even for guys that have been in the league a while, like they're not just going to come up to you and say like, this is what you need to do. This is what you need to do. It's more so like you asking questions, or you just kind of watching how they pitch, how they prepare, how they do this, how they do that. And like, that was more so to what helped me than anything else. And, like a lot of guys, reached out and kind of said like, nice things to me after I had that tough one in Arizona that I had to wear. But like, again, like those are all learning experiences. If you would have told me last year you can go up in the big leagues next year and give up 10 runs in a game, like I probably would have taken it. Like who knows? Like
you would have not believed it, but you're taking it.
Exactly. But at the end of the day, like it's more so stuff like that than anything else. Is just kind of watching guys and seeing how they do their thing. So that's where I got mentorship from.
I've been on the train for a long time that Justin Wrobleski is going to be a top shelf major league pitcher, and here we are right on the doorstep. So tell me what that would look like. Justin Wrobleski, you know yourself better than anybody. What would that top shelf pitcher look like for Justin Wrobleski?
Yeah, I think going into this next year, like the main goal for me is just to fine tune the off speed and not necessarily shapes. It's more of just the command of it. The command of my off speed was not great last year. I was basically pitching with just a fastball, and I was up in the big leagues. And sometimes stuff like that's going to happen, and you're going to lose a little bit of feel here and there. But yeah, it's just fine tuning the command of my off speed stuff, being able to throw it, in the dirt when I want to, and in the zone when I want to. And that's kind of going to be, I think, who I am. Like I'll always be a guy, like the fastball is going to be my main pitch. That's going to be what I throw, majority of the time. Not to say like I'm not going to throw off speed stuff, but it's just like I'm going to be a guy that commands off speed pretty well, like keeps you off balance, using the heater mainly so I can use the heater as a weapon. I think that's going to be what ultimately gets me to where I want to go, is being able to not hide the heater, but kind of pop it on guys when they're not expecting it, or when they haven't seen it in a certain area. Like that's kind of going to be who I am, is like we're going to fill the zone with the fastball, and then we're going to do the same with the off speed and be able to throw kind of both. Like that top to bottom is kind of where I work. So fastball's up, curveball down, slider down, like throw a slider in the zone mid count. Like that's kind of going to be who I am.
What's the coolest thing about being a major leaguer?
Coolest thing about being a major leaguer. I mean, playing in front of 50,000 people is pretty cool. That's probably number one for me, is just being able to play in front of that many people. And I don't know, it's cool. It's really cool. It's a super fun experience. It's almost like, because you've kind of grown up wanting to do it, and you've wanted to do it for so long, and that's been the goal for so long, where you just like, you don't take the time to really enjoy it once you're up there, because it's so competitive. It's so like, all right, I'm here. This is awesome now. I want to stay. Like,
yes.
So I think being able to stand back and take the time and be like, man, this is really cool. Like, that was a really cool experience. Like, regardless of how I threw, like, it's a super cool experience. You know, not a lot of people get to say they've done that. You can't take away that I was a major league pitcher,
right? And
I am a major league pitcher, so no one can ever take that away from me, which is really cool. Kind of stepping back and looking at it. It's a super cool experience. It's really hard to describe, especially when it's been something you've worked towards forever. It's you know, and the path for me was a lot different than others. So
yeah.
It's I think just having gratitude for it's important for me, but what it's like, or what my favorite part about it is, like, I can't tell you. I think it's just all of it.
Let's make this a very light moment. Of course, you had the one outing at the beginning of September where you mentioned you had to wear it. So just knowing you, of course, you got all the questions. You made it to the 6th inning, which I'm sure that you thought was fine, right? But just knowing you, and I saw you answer all the questions, I was like, yeah, he's giving the politically correct answer, but I'm pretty sure what he's saying behind closed doors. So what was your real mentality towards that?
Yeah, that's a tough one. Like, it's, you know, obviously, with how it went, I had seen the previous couple of days, like, bullpens taxed. I knew that I was going to have to go out there and give length and whatever. Sure. And, you know, they ran out like a different lineup than normal. And, you know, just had a couple things not go my way, like a hook liner down the line and left, and then kind of just stuff that was just falling. And then I gave up a couple of homers there, and next thing you know, they score 6, 7, 8 runs, whatever. And so then it just becomes like, for me, it was like, all right, well, they're not taking me out of this game, so I guess I'll just, like, I'm going to go out there and grind. Like, I'm going to show them who I am. Like,
yes,
I wasn't, like, my stuff wasn't great that day. My command wasn't great that day. Like, I didn't really have anything going. And so for me to be able to get through, you know, I think it was 5 1/3 or 5+ or whatever it was, it was cool. I mean, it was nice to get that. You know, obviously coming out of that game, like, worst feeling ever. Also too, it's just like stepping back and looking at it, like, yeah, like, you did what your job was. Like, your job wasn't to go out here and dominate today. Like, your job was to go eat innings. And
so you were able to see it that way.
Yeah, like you ate the innings today. Like, you saved the pen. And I think they ended up winning the series that weekend. So, like, great. Like, you know what I mean? Like, awesome. I'm happy that we won. But at the same time, you know, like, the competitor in me, again, like I said earlier, like, I want to go out there and dominate. Like, I want to pitch well. I want to help the team win. I don't want to just, you know, I want to help the team win in games where I pitch, I should say. And so, you know, it was great to go out there and do my job. And I think I showed a lot of guys on that team, like, you know, I think there's guys that respect me for that, just kind of how I tried to handle that situation. But at the end of the day, like, it happens. You're gonna wear them sometimes. And, you know, Dave and them were in a tough spot where, you know, they can't take me out of that game because the bullpen was taxed and they needed him for the weekend. So I think there's certain guys that definitely would have given up, and, you know, whether it's give up 4 or 5 more runs or whatever, like, I threw up a couple zeros. I think it was 2 or 3, and then kind of, you know, settled it down a little bit. Obviously, we weren't going to win that game after I gave up 10. I think we tried. Like, it was close, but, you know, like, sometimes stuff like that happens, and you just got to move on from it. It sucks, but what am I going to do? I can't change it now. So it's again, just learning from it and moving forward.
Awesome attitude, man. Let's not finish on that. Let's finish with this. Tell us where you're at for your off season, your routine, and all your goals.
Yeah. I am at home because
in Georgia?
Yeah, I'm in Georgia. The off season ended so late, or the season ended so late that I was going to come back here anyways, but just ended up staying with the family again.
Nice.
Just for probably my last off season here. I was like, yeah, I'll give it one more just for mom and for everybody else. So I love being here. I love being with my family. So it just worked out that way. And maybe next off season I get an apartment around here somewhere and whatever. But back home in Georgia, just doing my normal off season stuff. Just getting ready to go. Started throwing bullpens. So we're in a good spot. Just ready for this spring training to start and then to get it going.
Who's going to catch your bullpens?
I go to
not Dad.
No, definitely not Dad. Definitely not Dad. No, luckily our backyard's pretty big.
Okay.
So I got like probably 180 feet back there. That's enough for me to throw, and I got a net, and so the net doesn't lie. That's why I like throwing in the net. The net's not going to move and catch the ball for you. So it's good. I like throwing into the net, just kind of being by myself and doing it that way. And then I throw my bullpens at a place called Full Count. That's like an hour 10 from me, and they've been super awesome to me forever. So throwing my bullpens there, and then kind of just making a few adjustments here and there, just kind of again like fine tuning all my stuff and just getting ready to go.
Oh, man. Hey, Justin Wrobleski, I've taken a lot of your time. I know you're very, very busy. Third time you've come in. It's just always such an honor every time I get a chance to talk to a fellow Oklahoma State Cowboy for one, and then now a major leaguer and just such an awesome dude. So, Justin Wrobleski, thank you so much.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.